freemmostation.com.
Hey guys, welcome to Free MMO Station. My name is Skylent, and today we're going to be talking about Warface. This is actually Warface Anubis 2016. You see, there's actually a difference. Not too much of a difference, it's still the same game, kind of. It's just like the best version of the game that is yet to be. So it's kind of rebranded, sort of renamed a little bit with Anubis 2016 following Warface, and the game is just going to be the most polished and just overall the best experience that you could possibly have currently right now. I'm unsure why they are doing this other than just like, trying to, just republish, just trying to get it back out into the masses, trying to get people to, re-know the game, come back in, just like saying, hey guys, we made some mistakes, we fixed those mistakes, we've cemented the cracks, and now it should be a smooth experience, a smooth ride. And yeah, that was my experience here with my first impressions, jumping back into Warface once again. And this is coming from somebody when I first did my very first impressions, way back in the day. I did not really enjoy my time with it. It didn't really run that great on my machine, and it didn't really look that good either for its performance. It just kind of felt sluggish. I really liked a lot of its ideas, but it just wasn't really all there. It just wasn't really polished. It was extremely rough, and now it is polished, and so now I jump back in. I'm having fun because my bias is I really like these sort of tactical, team-based games. Now, this is a class-based game, and it really puts a lot of emphasis on classes, on teamwork, on tactics, but it's probably the fastest-paced tactics shooter that I can really think of. Yeah, so it's really a blending, in my opinion, of a lot of different FPS genres. So we're gonna go break it down, game by game, what it borrows from, what it takes from, what it does right, what maybe it does wrong. These are my first impressions of Warface. So, first thing I want to say is that Warface splits its game content into two. One part is its competitive multiplayer, so you can jump into matchmaking, do a little competition, PvP directly. I think it's up to 8v8 matches, and the maps range from extremely small, which we're used to in a lot of free-to-play shooters, like AVA, and then it ranges to a little bit bigger, kind of like tactical size, probably like Counter-Strike Go, maybe Call of Duty-ish size. Still nothing big team battle warranted. So it's going to be smaller arena maps that range from small to medium, I guess. And they focus really more on tactics. There's lots of hallways, stuff like that, to funnel players. And there's very little verticality. So it's kind of Call of Duty-ish, I want to say, kind of combat arms-ish. And the only verticality in the game is the fact that players can help other players vault up to higher heights. So that's a really cool mechanic that I really appreciate. So you have these small maps that are really kind of compacted, but the verticality does add to it. Okay, so normally in these games, Combat Arms, Counter-Strike, you have like 3 lanes basically, and you choose from those 3 lanes. In this game, you maybe will have a 4th lane kind of, because you can, if another player wants to help another player vault up, then they can get up to that higher area and flank around, or maybe they can perch up there with a sniper rifle. And that's just like one small mechanic that adds to the whole gameplay, baby. It's pretty cool. I mean, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more with the buddy system, but even just that small, that little thing that you can do with another player, it does add to the gameplay just a little bit. And it adds to the mentality that this game is a co-op-y, team-based game. Okay, so yeah, the other half of the game is going to actually be a co-op mode. It's a player versus environment mode, which it seems like it kind of ranges with its campaigns. Like when I first played, it was more of like a wave survival-y kind of thing. I don't know if that's still in the game, because the first mission that I played was actually more of like a campaign. Like you kind of just run through it. It's a very linear experience, almost on rails, and yeah, you just run through it because it's on easy. Now, if you are experienced with PC shooters, it will literally be just stupidly easy. But if you're not, then you might have some trouble. So I played with a couple other people, like 4 other players, I think, and all of them did basically 1/3 the work that I did. I did some work, man. I cleaned up shop. And yeah, so I was pretty experienced with it, but then again, the missions range from easy to significantly more difficult. I remember when Warface first came out, I could not beat the first mission, and that was with a bunch of other players. So yeah, I just want to mention that. Co-op's pretty cool. Now, there is also another section I didn't get to play. It's called Special Ops. So I don't know what that exactly entails, but I'm assuming they are the most difficult and most challenging specialty cooperative maps. So yeah, half the game is co-op, half the game is its competitive player versus player. So 8v8, and then I think for the co-op, it's 5 players. And in all of that, the mechanics that tie it together, that's the peanut butter to the jelly sandwich, is going to be the class mechanic. So it is a class-based shooter, and to me, this is super exciting. This is super hype, because not only is it classes that I really enjoy, and yes, they're fundamentally usual, okay? You have the sniper class, you have a support class, but the fact is that they actually are classes. So the support classes can heal, you can actually give people ammo, and all the different classes have their own unique sort of limitations of weapons that they utilize, and you have your specialty, so you have to actually rely on your team to have different characters, and I just, personally, I like stuff like that. That's why Overwatch is my most played game. Now, one thing that also I really, really like about this game that I do not see in any other game other than something like Overwatch. I literally only see this in Overwatch, and barely, you can kind of metaphor it. And it's the fact that inside of Warface, you can actually re-equip and equip different sort of attachments to your weapons inside the match. And I'm not talking about like in Call of Duty when you're respawning, you can switch classes, because yeah, you could do that in this game too, but that's still pre-loadouts. In this game, you can actually put on and take off different kinds of scopes and attachments to your weapons to fit the need of that part of the map, of, countering what the enemy team is building. Here's an example. Maybe the enemy team is completely bunkered with long-range weapons. They're just kind of sitting and camping. Well, you're gonna need to either put on a scope to counter-snipe them or take it off so you can go ham and run in and flank them. You can actually switch and swap different items that you need to counter them. And I've really only seen that in something like Overwatch, where you can actually actively switch different characters to counter the enemy team, and I think that's a very competitive mindset, and I just think it's really cool. Yes, the animations and pretty much everything about the game is kind of borrowed from Crysis. I mean, you have the slide, you literally have the exact animation of switching the different loadouts on the weapons, and it works exactly like it is in Crysis, but that's completely fine. If this is an asset flip, it's the highest quality asset flip that I've seen. Besides, the assets are from Crysis, so fuck yeah. Anyways, yeah, let's talk about the graphics real quick. Yeah, it's gonna look good on all max, and what you're seeing the video is on everything max with the NVIDIA physics turned on, and the performance is gonna be pretty good. In certain situations, it's not gonna be that good though, for some reason. Like when there's crazy animations, I know there's this one part in the co-op campaign, it was like this reactor was exploding, it dipped down to 30 FPS, but for the most part, I think especially in the PvP section, it's not gonna hinder you. And of course, you can always go from low to ultra settings, and even on the lowest setting, it's still going to compete or definitely be better than almost every other free-to-play shooter out there. It really, all you have to do is ask yourself, do you like the aesthetics of the game? Because it's sort of like a postmodern game. There's a little bit of futurism to it, some like exosuits kind of, and it's kind of an arcade shooter in a way. So as long as you like the aesthetics and everything, it's a little bit more more modern-ish, more, it's like Call of Duty kind of. If you're into that, then the game's gonna look good, because it's really competing with games like Combat Arms and AVA, which, kind of have a similar aesthetic, the whole modern combat, postmodern combat, a little bit of futurism maybe sprinkled in there, but overall, it's the same look. If you're into that, you're gonna like the game. It's gonna look, I guess, technically better, because it is running in the Cry engine. It should run on most engines, especially if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, it should run the best. Yes, there is a little bit of bias with different cards, so if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, anywhere, like any sort of like modern, I guess like a GTX 970 is what I'm running, you're gonna be able to run it on all max, pretty much most of the time. Most of the time. It did dip a little bit, but, whatever. Whatever, guys. It definitely runs better than it used to. But yeah, if you want to run it on low, you can do that. However, I will say that on low, it's not going to look as good as this. Still, should compete with other games. And now talking about how the game feels. So we gotten past the art style, looks pretty okay. Let's go into the game feel. When I first played, I really did not like the game feel. But now that I'm playing now, I can appreciate it, because it's polished. It's pretty good. It's pretty tight. It's pretty tight. It's a little bit slower paced than I personally am biased towards. I really like games like Overwatch, where it's extremely vertical, considering things. I mean, Quake, Unreal. I'm into games like that, where I'm just all over the place, looking all over the place. I'm jumping around, zippity zapping. That's my bias. But even then, I really appreciate what this game is doing. We do have a couple of mobility things. Like I said, you can actually use your team to kind of get to other places. There's also a slide mechanic, which is really gimmicky. It's still, I mean, it's not as fast-paced as like a Genji Dash. Of course it's not, but still, I appreciate that the game has that little added, that arcade feel to the game where you can just be crazy and silly. And yeah, I know it's kind of taken from Crysis, but still. And in saying that, there's a lot of mechanics to this game that really you can find in many other games. It really feels like Warface just took, Battlefield, it took maybe something like Call of Duty, and it took, of course, its elements from Crysis, and just kind of just mashed them all together. Yes, at first, it was a really rough mash, okay? It wasn't very polished. All these mechanics were just kind of rough, and it wasn't really tied well together with the game feel, in my personal opinion, but that has all been fixed now, okay? That we have really good co-op campaign that feels good. It's a really good learning curve, I think, for new players, especially new to FPSs. I think the game, because it lacks verticality, would be really good on consoles, which this used to actually be on consoles. It was taken off Xbox Live Arcade. Don't know if it's back on now. And I think overall, like, it just has something. It has a little bit of something for everyone. Now, even with my bias of playing extremely fast-paced games, I feel like because the maps are smaller, even though it's a tactical game, so you have to appreciate that it's a really fast tactical game, even though overall it's slow compared to other, non-tactical games. Kind of hard to explain if you haven't played these different genres, but trust me, if you can get into the game and just play it a little bit, I think you'll start to learn and appreciate it. You just have to get through it. And luckily now, because the polish is there and it's playing better than ever, you don't have to trudge through awkwardness to get there. You just jump in, play, and you're probably already having fun. You can pick a class, you can customize your weapons significantly, and even inside the matches, customize your weapons. It's cool, man. It's a cool free-to-play game. I think it's going to directly compete with a lot of other free-to-play games that are relaunching. AVA is relaunching, Combat Arms is relaunching, and there's a slew of other free-to-play shooters coming out in the near future, probably because of the resurgence of shooter games, period, thanks to games like Overwatch and Doom, stuff like that. So, is Warface something to play based on its competitive? Maybe. It is signed with ESL, so I don't know how big it is. I personally haven't seen it. I know Combat Arms and Ava still kind of have some tournaments and stuff, but that's over in the East. Those games are actually popular in the East, not so much in the West. Warface is more of a Western game. We will see if it's competitive over here or not, but I do know that it is on ESL, and its mechanics and game feel overall, it feels like it could probably be a really competitive game. I think, in my opinion, I want it to be a competitive game. Heck, I would like to play it competitive because it just seems really cool. I feel like there's a lot of tactics in the game. It is the fastest tactical shooter that I can think of, and yeah, maybe it lacks some tactics and maybe it lacks some speed, but overall, those two together, I think it's a really nice blend. I want to see it work. That's my opinion. I really, from somebody who first played the game a while ago, I didn't enjoy it. I am enjoying it now, even though my personal bias says I should hate this game. In fact, I enjoy it. So, can't always put it into words, just a casual first impression as one consumer to another. Hopefully you appreciate it. You should try Warface to see if it works for you. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Skylent, here with Free MMO Station. Always here having fun. Hopefully you do too, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.